We got to take them back. This thing started when? Let's talk about when this whole thing started. What was going on in your life when all this stuff went down?
Oh, man, it's been
Marty McFly, this thing. Let's go back in time, baby.
14 years we've been together. We dated for about 2.5 years before we got engaged. We were engaged for about 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming up on our 11th wedding anniversary this December. But it didn't start that way.
No, son.
I mean, I was at college. I went to a small private school in Georgia and ended up just staying there for a while. And then I came home for Christmas one year and didn't go back for a year because I met my wife while I was at home, completely randomly, no intentions at all.
So random.
I mean, just the way we got together is crazy.
Wouldn't you say it's kind of like a movie moment, or like if somebody was going to be writing a book, that's how they would write it?
It's definitely like the most unlikely scenario you could imagine.
Right. That's what fascinates me about it so much.
For starters, I've known her since she was, 6 years old.
Oh, we got to go back.
And I was 10,
Yeah.
Her dad was our elementary school principal. Matter of fact, her dad is the only person who's ever paddled Exonovant.
Yeah, boy, that's another story.
Was a bad boy one day, but
yeah, that's
so
another podcast right there.
I knew of her, and then she went to our church and came to a lot of the stuff that you and I led at the church, but she was just a girl. That's it. I mean,
right.
I had no reason to ever think about her because there was an age difference. Ended up being asked to chaperone this last second ski trip out of nowhere. They were like, we'll pay for you to go, just chaperone and you can hang out with us. So I went, I was fine with it. And, I just came out of like probably two of the worst breakups imaginable. Just did the whole dating thing, tried a bunch of stuff out, and then just fall flat on your face. It's one of those things where you just get tired of getting into a relationship, not knowing if it's going to work, and then 6 months later you end up breaking up and it's hard and you get hurt and she gets hurt. And I was just tired of it. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was 23 at the time, 22, about to turn 23, and I was just kind of done.
Yeah, and you just realized it was a waste.
Yeah, and I mean, I was talking to a girl back in Georgia. I'd chased her pretty much the entire time I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
And she was basically just come home after Christmas and we'll go out a couple times, see if it'll work. And I never went back.
But you had a potential relationship kind of on lock.
I did. I really did.
And I know this girl. I met this girl at one of the visitations, if I'm remembering this correctly.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same girl.
Yeah, same
and
one.
she was nice. She was a nice
she was great.
girl.
I chased her the entire time I was at college. Anytime I didn't have a girlfriend, I thought about her. And then it just never worked out. We were never single at the same time, except for that brief moment before I left to come home for Christmas.
Yeah.
She went home for Christmas and I just didn't go back.
Which is crazy, right? Because normally when you think about this sort of stuff, you're like, well, such and such just moved on to a better girl. But it wasn't that kind of thing for you. It wasn't like you were a player. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no.
It wasn't like you moved on to a better girl. It's just a situation came up.
Well, I mean,
it just blindsided you.
We weren't serious at school. I mean, it was, we had started talking and we were both coming out of rough relationships where we both got hurt.
Right.
And she was not going to commit too much, I don't think. She was about to graduate. I'd already left. So I don't believe it was.
So
she definitely wasn't destroyed by it. I don't even think she noticed it.
Right.
But it was just one of those things where I knew that my wife had to be special because I completely forgot about the other girl immediately. Right. And that's someone I couldn't get out of my head for better part of 4 years while I was in school.
Which is not necessarily in your character.
Not at all. I'm very dogmatic about stuff. Once I get an idea in my head, I stick to it.
It's hard to shake it.
I make quick decisions and I stick to them.
Mm-hmm. And you defend them like
a pit bull.
Yeah. I know. Daddy knows. I've been your brother for a long time.
The most stubborn person that anybody's ever been around.
I'm fairly stubborn, but you're probably Super Saiyan.
Yeah, I'm pretty bad about it. But the thing about the way I met her on the ski trip. I already knew her, so it's not really like I met her. It was just one of those things where I guess I could finally talk to her like an adult. Now she's...
Well, it's like you met her again, you know what I mean, in a different part of your life, and so it's a different meeting. It's a different meeting. Now
dating is a possibility. And I didn't want to just have a girlfriend that would ride shotgun with me for a few months and then we get bored and break up and I have to start all over again. I wanted some wife material. Mm-hmm. So I went into it completely differently. I went into it to blow it up. I figured if we're going to break up, let's break up quick.
And this is where the story goes crazy. This is where the story goes off the rail because it was almost in a way like you were self-sabotage.
I basically dared her to break up with me after about a month.
Which is so let's get that context in, right? So
the quick backstory: we meet on this ski trip. We hit it off. I know she likes me. I like her, and I'm not somebody who goofs around. Like, I'll just straight up ask you out. Like, I don't have any problems just telling you exactly how I feel, when I feel. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. So I asked her out. She said yes. We went on a couple dates. I think we've been on 4 or 5 dates. She met our parents. I met her parents again. The whole thing. And then I was kind of at a crossroads. I was like, man, I got to move back to Georgia in about 6 or 7 months. I already knew I was going to do it. And I'd already been in one long distance relationship a couple years before that went horribly wrong. It couldn't have gone any worse than it did. It about tore me out of the frame. Because you just try so hard to make it work that you overdo it. And then you end up, when you're away from each other, it's romantic and you're talking on the phone. It's almost like you're earning it, sort of. Mm-hmm. And then when you're together, it's forced. Because then you're trying to make up for lost time or all the stuff that would annoy you that you don't really notice because you're never around each other is glaring. Because, I would go like a month and a half, not see her, then drive to her house or she would come visit me, and then you just try to make up for everything.
Right.
And I wasn't going to do that again.
How awkward is that? That has got to be I'm not saying long distance relationships can't work, but I'm just saying.
No, because mine did.
Yeah, it worked for a long time. But it's it's so awkward though.
But I wanted to make sure that if for no other reason other than just bad luck, that it at least had a shot. And because I knew I was moving back to Georgia, which is about 4.5 to 5 hours from where our parents live. Mm-hmm. And then my wife was already enrolled to go to a college on the coast of North Carolina, which will make it another hour. Right. So we would be about 6 hours apart for at least a semester plus part of the summer. So you're looking at least 4 to 5 months. It's guaranteed long distance relationship.
And are you willing to put that time in again?
Exactly, because I've already done this and been burned.
And wouldn't you say, just to kind of give some more context here, would you say that you looked at it almost like, this is probably the wrong analogy, but kind of like a job? Like, there's something I want out of this job, and I want to find out during the interview process if it's what I want. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the wrong analogy, but there's certain things you want out of a wife. And like when you go into a job interview, it's okay, how much am I going to make? How many hours am I going to work? You got to know those things up front. And a lot of people don't. So how would you look at that relationship? How would you look at going into it? What was your mindset, right?
Well, I think being 23 and she being 18, you're dealing with two adults, pretty well-rounded, adjusted adults. Because
she was a mature 18. Because I knew her too. She wasn't like She was a 23-year-old in an 18-year-old's body.
Right. I mean,
put that
most people think I'm the younger one in our relationship.
Right.
But the thing about it was I knew what I was looking for, and I'd been in that situation where when you first start dating, everything the other person does is cute or it's awesome or blah blah blah, and then 6 months into it, what was cute and awesome is now irritating and annoying, and oh my god, I gotta get out of here. Maybe they feel that way about you, and
it happens on both ends.
And what happens, I think, a lot of times people know what they want, but then they settle for what they have. And I wasn't prepared to do that again. I'd already done it a couple times. I know people did it with me. You just fall into cycles and you're afraid to be alone or whatever. But, for me, I just decided to blow it up.
You did.
And I told you I was going to do it. I think it was probably our 5th or 6th date.
Let's talk about that.
I came home and I said, yeah, I'm going out tonight. And I said, man, I got an idea.
Dude, this is crazy.
And you were like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to see if she'll break up with me.
I was like, what? Because we were playing Final Fantasy X. Your boy just got his PlayStation. We were playing Final Fantasy X. And the deal was that, let's talk about this. Anytime that the other one was out of the house, the other brother, right, would just level up.
You were not allowed to progress story. You were not allowed to do anything other than kill monsters.
That's work on the sphere grid, stuff like that.
Get my sword leveled up.
Yeah, and then when the other brother came home, then we started progressing the story again. So I was like, look, man, and I told you, this is bro to bro. I said, hey, man, I just don't think this is a smart play. Like, I just don't. I mean, you're what, 3-4 weeks in?
Yeah.
I was like, maybe if it was 6 months in, then I go, yeah, well, maybe this could happen. But I was totally against it.
Oh,
now, granted, you're a grown man, and I've never told you what to do with your life. You never tell me what to do with mine. But I was like, I got to advise you on this, man. Like, I just don't think this is a smart play. I said, I think you should stay right here and play Final Fantasy X with me.
I was like, nah, man, I need to figure this out because I'm moving back. She's already committed to going to school. So if we're going to do this, I got to know that when we're apart, it'll be worth doing.
Yeah.
So I said, here's what I'm going to do, man. I'm gonna take her to, there's a town we go to because the town we grew up in is so small. There's literally nothing in it. I mean, there's nothing there. So we have to go to like surrounding places in order to see a movie or anything like that. So I got about a 30-minute drive to get to the theater and a 30-minute drive to get back. So what I'd originally planned was we would go out, go see a movie. We saw Kung Pao, which was freaking hilarious. So I figured we'll laugh all the way through the movie, and then I'll just drop this gigantic
nuclear
hammer on
bomb.
the situation, and then just see if it works. Because I figured if worst case scenario, if she's like, you're crazy and I don't want to do this, then we're not far enough into a relationship where she gets hurt or I get hurt. We can just make a clean break. I'm leaving, she's leaving in a few months anyway.
Right.
But what ended up happening is I ended up doing it on the way there because she brought up the subject of me leaving and her leaving. So I was like,
which I think shows a side of her maturity that, she was thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, she was actually trying to figure out like
what was going to happen in the next step.
Yeah, like the schedule, like how often I could come home and all that kind of stuff. And I just was like, well,
you just dropped it.
here's what I need to talk to you about is I really like you and I think you like me, but I think you need to know what I want to do so you can decide if this is something you want to do. I'm never going to be the guy who makes you rich or buys you a bunch of stuff. I'm just not going to be that guy. And I've been with girls who thought that's what I would be, and they compared me to this guy or that guy, and I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to plant churches eventually.
Yeah, there's certain things you want to do in your life, and it's almost like she's either down with that or not.
And I was like, and I'm not telling you that you have to change your life to be with mine. I'm saying if this makes sense to you,
then we can go.
Your life is my life.
Right.
And I'm not making you change. I don't want you to change. I'm just giving you an out. If this is not for you,
now's the time to.
I'm not going to be mad, And I went into it fully expecting to break up.
No, see,
I mean, I really did.
I was expecting you to come home, crying your eyeballs out type thing.
And what was funny is while I'm telling this story, we're passing by this huge cemetery in the town that we're in. I mean, it's gigantic. And I was like, well, this is fitting.
Yeah, dude.
And
oh my God.
So I just laid it all out on the line, like everything I wanted to do when I was moving back.
Just threw it out there.
I figured, like, the small times we'd see each other and what my plans were.
Yeah.
And it was complete silence for what felt like an eternity. And
because, like you said, you had expected to do this on the way home.
Yeah, and then then you can just take her home and she can process it.
The date is over, but the date has just started. So what do you do?
We're about 10 minutes away from the movie theater, and
how awkward would that have been, dude?
Oh my God,
dude! If it goes bad, what do you do, bro?
I thought about like just saying, let's go get something to eat, and then I'll just take you home.
Yeah,
and you got a 30. But I mean,
I think that's your only play at that point.
Yeah. So there was the awkward silence, which felt like forever. It's probably just a few minutes at the most, and she said, "Yeah, I think we could do it."
Now that had to be music to your ears right there, bro.
Yeah, I mean, from that point, I knew that at least we had a legitimate shot.
Yeah.
Like, the only way it's not gonna work is if I do something stupid to mess it up.
Right.
And we went on to the movie. We watched the movie, and then on the way home, I told her exactly what I meant to do.
Like details, said everything.
I said, I fully expect you to break up with me. I did this to see if you would.
That is insane.
Because I've told other girls this stuff much further into the relationship, 6 months in, 8 months in, and it freak them out.
Or it's not, or it either freaks them out, or it's just not the direction they're going.
Right.
And so it just naturally goes to the wayside, right? But
and then some people are like, oh, why'd you do that? You just killed your relationship. No, I put it out of its misery. It was headed to this death.
But I think that's what's so fascinating about this freaking story is because most people, when they date, they don't know what they want before they get into a relationship, right? They get in it and then they go, oh, I don't want that. But then they can't get out because there's feelings involved and all this kind of crazy stuff. You just took it, and I honestly think you applied more logic to it than what most people do. You looked at it as exactly what it was. Like, you're not ready to date. You're out of that dating mentality, if you will. You're ready to move on with life. You're ready to get married, that type of thing. Not at that time, but that was your state of mind, right? I want to do something for the long haul.
Yeah, and that was the other flip side of it too, is because of the age difference, I knew that I was going to need to be in a long-term dating relationship, even though I was more ready to be married at that point in my life.
Right.
I mean, we dated for almost 2.5 years before we even got engaged.
Because she still had college.
Yeah, and I knew that, and I wanted her to
finish college first.
To be able to give. So when we got married around Christmas of her junior year, which meant that when she got back to school, she was only doing student teaching. My wife's a teacher.
Right.
And then the whole senior year is nothing but student teaching. So it was the closest thing to real life while still being in college. She didn't go to class anymore. Like, she learned on the job, basically.
Yeah.
So we planned a lot of this stuff out. So it would simulate more life and wouldn't be so much class and that kind of thing. And I knew I'd have to hold on for a while.
Yeah.
In a good 4 or 5 months, we were in 2 different states.
Yeah.
But it never changed. I mean, it never wavered. The funny thing is, we immediately started sharing money, like right after that conversation.
I remember that.
Like, I was like, I got $20 I can spend. You got 10. What you want to do?
What you want to do, son? Let's go do something,
because
baby.
With other girls, I would go bankrupt trying to keep up this persona of I pay for everything, and and I with her, I just felt like I could just be me, and this is what we can do, and
this is what we can't do. Yeah.
And we always thought more like a married couple even when we were dating. Because I
remember I dated a girl. I won't say the name. You probably know who I'm talking about when I get into this story. But there was a time where I was financially supporting our family.
Yeah.
And was dating a girl prior to this, time. And I had money. I was crazy rich. I lived at home. I didn't have any bills, and I was making tons of money, right? I worked at the daycare and, with the summer care program, and had money to blow. So every weekend we were going out, doing our thing. And I was spending money, which is what I was always thought the guy was supposed to do, right? Throw cash around. Because, the way we grew up, and we'll get into this in future shows, but we grew up around older people. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so we learned a lot of, I would say, bad habits. How you're supposed to treat women, how you're supposed to date. And I'm not talking about like beating women. I'm just saying like, typical dating type stuff, the way that you're not supposed to go about it. And I remember when I had to start helping the family financially, I didn't have any money anymore. And this girl broke up with me because we couldn't go out and have that, those date nights anymore. So getting back to your point, you never had to worry about that. That was never an issue.
I literally took a sledgehammer to every illusion that a chick could have about a guy.
Right.
Like I was completely 100% raw about everything. And I'm not saying that like I was just jerk or it's my way or the highway. I didn't put on any front. I just said, this is what we got. This is what we can do. This is what I'm prepared to spend. And then we were both happy to just watch movies. My God, I can only imagine if Netflix had been around back then, we would have just done that. We were a pretty simple couple.
But wouldn't you say that most relationships, they kind of kill the relationship because you make moves in relationships, decisions, not necessarily based on your gut, but what you're worried about the other person doing in response to it. Like when you confronted her that night when you were going out, you were like, you know what? I want a reaction. I'm begging for a reaction, and I'm willing for it to go good or bad. Where most people don't think that way in a relationship. They're like, well, if I do this, then my girl's going to respond like this, and she might break up with me. You know what I mean? And you're scared of the outcome. Whereas with you, it was like, hey, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Like, I'm ready for it. And so I'm going to encourage it to a degree.
The boyfriend and the girlfriend in the situation, they get to a point where a relationship kind of starts to get stale, but they don't really want to break up because they don't really have a better option, or maybe they just enjoy each other's company, but it's not quite the same. Mm-hmm. So in order to get some spark back into it, where you're at in life, but I would say no matter what age you are, at all costs, avoid the relationship escalation. If you feel like you have to constantly one up the situation in order to keep your status or to keep it fresh, then you're probably not in the relationship you need to be in. Or if you ever break up or talk about breaking up or seeing other people, the relationship 99.9% of the time, it's already over. You're just delaying the inevitable. You're hanging on to something that's already most likely dead. There's always that one left field worked out and they get married or whatever, but 99.9% of the time, that thing is over. Because now that seed of doubt is there.
Well, so and I think every time it's the image
there's an argument, you think you're going to break up,
partner,
or you think she's going to leave, or you're going to leave.
Or if she doesn't call you one night, you're sitting there biting your nails going, okay, what I do wrong.
You're playing this relationship chicken at that point.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And that never helps. It never works. I think once you have an idea you should break up, you probably should. And in a lot of ways, she fell in love with
the lifestyle,
what she was doing, and not you.
Yeah,
and it was probably unintentional on her part. Yeah, because I know her too.
Yeah, she's a nice girl. I don't have any ill will toward her.
Sometimes you just fall in love with the idea of the relationship rather than the relationship itself. Mm-hmm. And what I was setting out to do in this new relationship is push the envelope early rather than later, when now breaking up is hard.
Yeah, if you go 6 months and you've got those attachments, you got the family attachments, and it's hard.
Friends are involved, and everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah.
In the beginning, if it doesn't work out, you just chalk it up to we dated a couple times, just didn't work out. Nobody's mad at anybody. And
that kind of gets me back to my job analogy. And like I said, maybe that's the wrong analogy, but you know, when you go in for a job interview, you're interviewing the job as much as they're interviewing you. But I think a lot of people go into jobs and they want the job so bad. They need the money so bad.
They'll say whatever it is.
I'll work 90 hours a week. Who cares?
Oh, I'm the most organized person you'll ever meet. And I love filing stuff.
Yeah, and the interviewer will be like, well, you know, it's going to be 60 hours a week. And they're like, no problem, man. That's not a problem at all. And then, but when they get into it, they go, well, this is not what I want. But I need the money, so I'm stuck. And then you find that person sitting in that cubicle every single week, stuck. And we see a lot of people just in life go through that. You know, they'll stay at a job for 20 or 30 years. 20 or 30 years. And hate it. I mean, absolutely hate it. And it's because they just didn't push the envelope like you said. If they'd have really said, look, I do not want a job that I have to work 60 hours a week. And if I go into this room and I ask this person, how many hours have I got to work? And they say 50 plus, I'll walk out. And if they do that, they're happy. But when you're desperate, when you feel like you have to date, when you feel like you have to have a relationship because all your friends has got it or whatever, I feel like you get yourself into some messes. And like you said, you just avoided all that. You went into it with that interview type mentality. Like, this is what I want. This is where I'm going. I'm not asking you to change, but I'm just saying you're either in line with this or you're kind of not. And if you're not, that's cool. Like, that just means you can do something else with your life, but it's wild. Yeah,
I agree.
It's wild, man. Like, you should write a book on this stuff. Like, and maybe this is normal. Like, you know.
Well, see, I think the conversation I had with her happens at some point in every relationship. Because it has to, or no one would get married. I mean, I think it happens. I just don't know if it happens at the moment where I decided to have it. And I think I just had it out of, maybe part of it was frustration. Maybe some of it was, I just don't want to do this again. I just spent the better part of a year and a half kicking myself for ruining a relationship, for trying too hard or dragging it on, and, you know, missed opportunities, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. And if I'm going to date somebody and put time into it, I just want to know that it's real. I don't want it to be, because I mean, it could have just been, I mean, the age difference. I mean, a chance to date an older guy. You know, it could have just been a crush type situation where she's not looking for anything serious. I mean, that could have easily been within the realm of possibility.
And I think if you'd have caught an 18-year-old who was actually the maturity level of an 18-year-old, and I say that loosely because that's kind of subjective, but you get my point. I think that's probably what you would have got. I think 9 times out of 10, that is what you get if you have that age gap, right? Now, if you're 32 dating a 27-year-old, probably not.
Yeah, it's completely like, once you pass, and this is my personal opinion.
Yeah,
I think once you get past like 24, 25,
it just all blends together.
Age is almost completely irrelevant.
I agree.
You're in the same place in life. I mean, I'm 36, and I've got friends that are 26, and we're both married.
Right.
We both have houses. We both drive, have cars we pay for, and we both have kids.
Right.
If you put us on a piece of paper and list out all the things that make us us, there's no difference.
It's the same.
You would think we were both around the same age, which we are.
Except they didn't do that to their wife 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean,
you get a little asterisk by your name, bro.
I mean, I've got friends that have only ever dated each other, and now they've been married for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
They've been dating since they were in 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Never been apart, never broke up. And I've got other people that I know who, the guy dated like 100 girls,
mm-hmm.
and the girl only dated him.
Yeah.
And then vice versa. So
I know who you're talking about.
I mean, I felt like in my situation, from where I was in my life, and I was really in a place I didn't want to be. I'm not the guy who wanted to go back home.
Right.
But I got to a point where it was just tough to get a job where I was in the small town where I was at.
Yeah.
And I needed a break. And
it was good to have you home, bro.
Oh, I know. We played a lot of video games.
We played a lot of video games.
But I mean, from where I was, I didn't want to waste any more time.
Yeah.
That's really what it came down to. And, I think what makes the story funny is I told you I was going to do it. If I didn't tell you I was going to do it, it would have just been something I did and nobody would ever know.
Because I remember when you came home Bro was in his room.
Oh, yeah, this was funny. Yeah.
You came in there, and you didn't say nothing.
Nothing at all.
You didn't say nothing to your bro, and I was like, oh, shoot, son, the hammer done failed. This is over. I was like, I got to be here for my bro. We're going to play some games tonight, and we don't drink or anything, but we're going to party, whatever that means in our world. And
Hawaiian punch.
Yeah, we're going to drink some Hawaiian punch and play some games. And I remember you sat out on the bed, and I was silent because I was, I've got to be there for my bro. So I was silent. I didn't say nothing. It was like a funeral up in that room. And I was like, who's going to say the first word? Like, should I say, hey, man, everything's going to be all right, and just assume that tragedy struck? Or should I be like, hey, man, how did it go? I mean, what am I supposed to do, right? I'm in an uncomfortable position. You ain't talking. And I muted the game. I actually paused the game, out of reverence.
Yeah.
And you were like, what did you say specifically? Something like, I think it's going to work, or I think I met my wife, or something like that. Like,
No,
it was pretty.
all I said was
something to that effect.
I said, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good. We're solid. We're good.
And I was
And
blown
you were
away.
like, what?
I was
like, yeah, no, it worked. It totally worked. She bought the whole thing. I was like, she's totally in. I said, I think I'm good. I'm done.
And I was like, no way. I was still in disbelief. I was like, there's no way.
I got a couple years, but I'm good.
And that was it. And I was like, dude, that is wild.
And I was like, what you want to do, man? We want to kill something?
Yeah,
yeah.
Because that's your phrase. You want to kill something. You always say that. And I was like, I guess we'll do some killing, because we were in the desert. Blindsided Desert, I think is what it was called. And I was leveling up on some cactuars.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and run this thing. And I felt weird. Like, I felt like a trick was being played on me, or like you were going to be like, man, just joking, psych. We just broke up, cuz. But you didn't. It was legit. And
no, I mean, it was totally over at that point.
Totally legit.
There was no, we never looked back from that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we never even had an argument or a disagreement until after we got married. That's when everybody starts fighting. But
right. Yeah, y'all had a pretty stable relationship. Like, there was no crazy, like, let's take a break for 6 months, or, I don't remember that
none
anyway.
of that stuff.
It was just
it
very
was never
cool. I mean, y'all had like discussions and maybe some differences, but it never got to the point where y'all like fought or like that type of thing.
No, we never
basic differences.
Never had a situation where either of us thought about breaking up ever.
Yeah, and that's y'all's big rule, right? Y'all don't throw around those words. Right, if you're gonna throw them around, you better be willing to do it. Sign some papers. That's your thing.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, even now, that's how we operate. We talk about stuff like when we decided to move where we are now. That was a big decision.
Yeah.
We're considering moving again, and that's a big decision. And we try to make decisions together. Sometimes, I will make the final decision if we're split. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes she will. Mm-hmm. It's a give and take.
There's no ego. There's no ego. It's just whatever's the right move, right?
When you've been married as long as we have, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you just don't care. You just want to get
through whatever and get on with life.
I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, most of our decisions now are completely 100% about the kids.
And I think that's how it should be. I think that's the right parent mentality to have.
Your boy's going to soccer practice like 4 or 5 times a week for 2 kids.
Soccer dad.
I mean, it's raining so hard here right now. We hadn't had soccer at all so far this week, and looks like we probably won't have it. And we're like so sad for the kids, but we're coming home at night and going,
yeah, boy,
we don't have soccer.